breaking news, there's a new UFO crash retrieval reverse engineering witness that has come forward. This is super juicy. Let's dive into it. Get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media, and let me know what you think in the comments below. All right, so a new article just dropped on the debrief written by Leslie Kean, renowned Leslie Kean, and Ralph Blumenthal about this guy, David Charles Grush. And it's mind-blowing. It really is. I have not read the full article. I wanted you to get my first impressions reading this article. Then there's also more information. There's going to be an interview with David in a few days with Ross Coulthart. And he also is talking about this on his own podcast, building up to the interview. So we'll hear a few thoughts from Ross, and we will see what Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal have to say in this huge breaking news piece. A former intelligence official turned whistleblower has given Congress and the intelligence community Inspector General extensive classified information about deeply covert programs that he says possess retrieved, intact, and partially intact craft of non-human origin. So, a few weeks ago or a week or two ago, we heard about a whistleblower that was making waves in Congress in Washington, D.C., talking about UFO reverse engineering programs. Is this the fellow? I'm inclined to think it very well might be. Going on, it says the information, he says, has been illegally withheld from Congress, and he filed a complaint alleging that he suffered illegal retaliation for his confidential disclosures reported here for the first time. Other intelligence officials, both active and retired, with knowledge of these programs through their work in various agencies, have independently provided similar corroborating information both on and off the record. The whistleblower, David Charles Grush, 36, a decorated former combat officer in Afghanistan, is a veteran of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency in the National Reconnaissance Office. He served as the Reconnaissance Office's representative to the U.A.P. task force from 2019 to 2021. From late 2021 to 2022, he was NGA's co-lead for U.A.P. analysis and its representative to the task force. The task force, and that's kind of what Ross is saying here. Let's.
Bender, who I have huge respect for, the ex-Politico journalist, now working in private consultancy. And Brian made the entirely legitimate point that if people are going to come forward, they really do need to be highly credible people, maybe perhaps speaking as program managers, people from within the program. Dave Grush isn't that. He's not somebody who's worked in the program. But what he did do is he worked for the U.A.P. task force. He was perhaps the lead investigator for the body that the Pentagon set up to investigate the phenomenon at the request of the Congress. And it was he who was authorized with all of his compartmented security clearances to go and find the codename programs that do exist, that contain what he alleges involve, as we've read today in the debrief, a crash retrieval program, recovered non-human technology that is secretly held by the United States. I've, like you in the last few weeks, Bryce, ever since I've first spoken to Dave, had trouble processing what he's been telling us. I've asked myself constantly, could he be some kind of disinformation stooge that's being put up by the Defense Department to completely and egregiously mislead the U.A.P. research community? So many people have vouched for him from the inside. I've never been fully
So yeah, all right. So he goes on, and I'll link to that video. Great video. He goes on to say a lot more, and there's going to be the upcoming interview with David in a few days, and I can't wait to see that. But yeah, so what did David say? What's the juicy stuff? Grush said the recoveries of partial fragments through and up to intact vehicles. have been made for decades through the present day by the government, its allies, and defense contractors. Analysis has determined that the objects retrieved are of exotic origin, non-human intelligence, whether extraterrestrial or unknown origin, based on the vehicle morphologies and material science, testing and the possession of unique atomic arrangements and radiological signatures, he said. In filing his complaint, Grush is represented by a lawyer who served as the original Intelligence Community Inspector General. We are not talking about prosaic origins or identities, Grush said, referencing information he provided Congress in the current ICIG. The material includes intact and partially intact vehicles. So we're not talking about the junk, rolling around in the bottom of the Roswell drawer that Colonel Corso managed. We're talking about intact vehicles. At least that's all we know that Colonel Corso had. There's no information that the Army possessed any intact vehicles. That seems to have been with the Air Force. But the Army had something. Maybe they had more. Maybe they had more than that. But it was enough to launch the modern computer revolution and change our world and other ways too. But let's go. Moving on. In accordance with protocols, Grush provided the Defense Office of Pre-Publication and Security Review at the Department of Defense with the information he intended to disclose to us. His on-the-record statements were all cleared for open publication on April 4th and 6th, 2023, in documents provided to us. So that's how he's able to speak out about it. I'm curious to learn more about how he is able to speak about this stuff. But moving on, Grush's disclosures and those of non-public witnesses under new protective provisions of the latest Defense Appropriations Bill signal a growing determination by some in the government, not all, to unravel a colossal enigma with national security implications that has bedeviled the military and tantalized the public going back to World War II and beyond. For many decades, the Air Force carried out a disinformation campaign to discredit reported sightings of unexplained objects. Now, with 2 public hearings and many classified briefings under its belt, Congress is pressing for answers. Not fast enough, but we may have to turn to the House to do that, but we'll see. We'll see. Carl E. Nell, a recently retired Army colonel and current aerospace executive, who was the Army's liaison for the U.A.P. task force from 2021 to 2022 and worked with Grush there, characterizes Grush as beyond reproach, which is also what Ross's sources are telling him. Chris Millen, who spent nearly 20 years in the U.S. intelligence community and served as the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, has worked with Congress for years on U.A.P., and he says, a number of well-placed current and former officials have shared detailed information with me regarding this alleged program, including insights into the history, governing documents, and the location where a craft was allegedly abandoned and recovered. However, it is a delicate matter getting this potentially explosive information into the right hands for validation. And in the video I shared yesterday, it looked like a lot of people were not happy with Arrow and Sean Kirkpatrick, and now Chris was funneling those people to the House Oversight Committee, where Tim Burchett is. So, and that's the hearing that hopefully will happen this month. So anyway, so that's Chris's comments. It's a delicate matter. It has to go into the right hands. This is made harder by the fact that, rightly or wrongly, a number of potential sources do not trust the leadership of Arrow. Shocking. But some insiders are now willing to take the risk of coming forward for the first time with knowledge of these recovery programs. Jonathan Gray is a generational officer of the U.S. intelligence community with a top-secret clearance who currently works for the National Air and Space Intelligence Center, where the analysis of U.A.P. has been his focus. Previously, he has experience serving private aerospace and Department of Defense Special Directive Task Forces. His quote is, "The non-human intelligence phenomenon is real. We are not alone." Retrievals of this kind are not limited to the U.S. And Ross has talked about this before. He talked about a crash retrieval in Australia, which is interesting because that retrieval was conducted by a U.S. team. However, he also reported on an Australian crash retrieval team that retrieved a craft outside of Australia. So why didn't they retrieve their own craft? I don't get it. It's weird. But whatever. Retrievals of this kind are not limited to the U.S. This is a global phenomenon, and yet a global solution continues to elude us. At the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, Grush served as a senior intelligence... Anyway, I'm not going to read all his qualifications, but yeah, he's got a lot of qualifications. According to a performance review, Grush was an intelligence strategist with multiple responsibilities. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's a long article. Let's see. Again, I'm reading this for the first time. I don't want to bore you guys. But yeah, in his statements cleared for publication by the Pentagon in April, Grush asserted that UFO legacy programs have long been concealed within multiple agencies, nesting UAP activities in conventional secret access programs without appropriate reporting to various oversight authorities. Shocking, right? He said he reported to Congress on the existence of a decades-long, publicly unknown Cold War for recovered and exploited physical material, a competition with near-peer adversaries over the years to identify UAP crashes, landings, and retrieve the material for exploitation, reverse engineering to garner asymmetric national defense advantages. Beginning in 2022, Grush provided Congress with hours of recorded classified information transcribed into hundreds of pages, which included specific data about the materials recovery program. Congress has not been provided with any physical materials. So there's no, Congress doesn't have the hard stuff. Too bad. His investigation was centered on extensive interviews with high-level intelligence officials, some of whom are directly involved with the program. So, I mean, that raises the question, are those guys legit? Are they on the level? Could they be feeding him disinformation? And you have to ask the question. I mean, I know they have these programs, but you do have to ask the question. And if they are letting this information come out, they may be doing it in a very controlled way. So they may be feeding him information that, steers the narrative in the direction they want potentially. So anyway, it goes on. I'm going to read this whole article. I can't wait, but I'm not going to bore you guys by reading the whole thing, but I will link to it. Anyway, this is amazing news that we have, sounds like multiple whistleblowers coming forward, but it looks like Grush is actually cleared to talk about this stuff. And he was the investigative officer for the U.A.P. task force, and he had access to all this stuff. He knew the program names, he knew where they were, he knew who to talk to, and he got the goods. So, score one for the U.A.P. task force. I'm going to give the credit to Jay Stratton and not Bray and Moultrie. Whatever. Score one for the U.A.P. task force. Absolutely, 100%. And, of course, it looks like he's having to sue because he's been retaliated against. So that's not great. So we need to find out more about how he's been retaliated against. And if he has been retaliated against for coming forward, then presumably others have as well. Who is retaliating? Is it, the control group? That's what one would assume, right? They have taken over Arrow. I think they took over the U.A.P. task force with Bray and Moultrie, and they co-opted this program. And when whistleblowers do come forward, they hide it and suppress it, and it looks like they go after the whistleblowers. So, like I've said for a while, Sean Kirkpatrick is the fox guarding the henhouse, and I think that is sadly very much true. And so people are going to go to the House Oversight Committee, and there may be other avenues as well. But at least some of the stuff is coming out, it's getting public This is huge news, guys. Huge news. However, Congress doesn't have the materials. They don't have the craft. They don't have any of the hard stuff. So we need that. You know, if we're going to have any form of disclosure, whether it's through official channels or not, we do need materials. We need the craft. We need some ships. We need some flying saucers. We need some Tic Tacs. So pony up with the goods, guys. But at least they know where these programs are. They know the names. They know the people to talk to. And it looks like they may be able to, you know, find a chink in the armor of the control group or whatever. So we'll see where it goes. And we do need official disclosure. I just wanted to add that. So it does need to go through Congress at least, or, you know, the executive branch if Congress won't do it. You know, that's what Steve Bassett has been saying, is that the executive branch is going to come out with a disclosure. And man, if they've got the goods like this, I can see an avenue for that happening. So time will tell, guys. But this is big news, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video or gotten something out of it, please give me a big thumbs up. I sure would appreciate it. Smash the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell, of course, to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. I would love to see you guys there. And if you could share this video on social media, that would be super helpful. And there's plenty of other videos to check out, and I'll see you next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.